First, meet Sarah Mitchell, 42 years old, a budget analyst in the U.S. Department of Education, based in Bethesda, Maryland. She has been with the department for 12 years. She lives with her teenage daughter and her elderly father, relying on a stable federal paycheck to keep bills paid. This morning, Sarah received an email. Starting immediately, she will be furloughed until Congress passes a spending bill. No paychecks, but her rent, utilities, and mortgage won't pause. She told a local reporter, "I've never missed a paycheck. Now I'm terrified of what next month looks like." But Sarah is not alone. Across the country, over 750,000 federal employees are facing the same fate. At the Internal Revenue Service, roughly 34,000 employees, nearly 46% of its workforce, are being furloughed. That means delayed tax refunds, frozen customer service operations, and mounting public frustration. National museums like the Smithsonian, public parks, and the National Zoo have already closed their doors. The Smithsonian's museums alone drew millions of visitors annually. Now they remain dark. The ripple effects are large, but the faces we see are individual, real, and scared. Now let's examine how we got here. The fundamental conflict centers on disagreements about federal spending priorities. The late 2025 fiscal year bill required approval by September 30. Democrats insisted that extensions must include protection for health care, subsidies under the Affordable Care Act. Republicans countered with demands for deep spending cuts, entitlement reform, and restrictions on certain social programs. President Biden and congressional Democrats argued that allowing those subsidies to lapse would destabilize coverage for millions of low- and middle-income Americans. Meanwhile, Republicans claimed they were defending fiscal responsibility, pushing back on what they saw as excessive federal spending. Several attempts at bipartisan compromise fell apart. Senators and representatives blamed each other in televised hearings, cable news segments, and social media. The clock ran out. Beyond politics, legal obligations also play a role. Under U.S. law, many agencies are required by statute to continue certain essential functions even during a shutdown. That includes military operations, disaster response, air traffic control, but non-essential services and many administrative functions are allowed to pause. The blame game is already in full swing. Republicans point fingers at Democratic unwillingness to negotiate on entitlement reform, while Democrats accuse Republicans of being indifferent to the human consequences. Public opinion polls show a divided populace, with many citizens frustrated at both parties for letting this happen. Some Republicans say this was inevitable unless healthcare funding reforms were adopted. Some Democrats respond that pandemic-era disaster relief and inflation suppression should be prioritized, and they will not trade away social safety nets. Meanwhile, social media and news networks amplify stories like Sarah's, showing real faces behind the crisis, which shifts public sentiment. Local reporters in hundreds of districts are shining a spotlight on federal employees' dark houses, shuttered offices, and communities in distress. Beyond the immediate crisis, the economic toll is severe. Analysts warn prolonged shutdowns reduce GDP growth, increase borrowing costs, and spook markets. Consumer confidence dips. Federal contractors may lose payments. Cities which depend on federal funding for grants, infrastructure, or social programs will feel strain. One troubling note: credit rating agencies often warn that long shutdowns can delay critical payments for Social Security, veterans' benefits, and federal grants. Some federal payments are being delayed or postponed, not canceled, but delayed, with ripple effects on state and local budgets. Internationally, allies watch closely. A U.S. seen as politically unstable or unable to fund its own government may lose credibility in negotiations abroad. What's next in resolution paths? So, what happens now? Congress will be under intense pressure from constituents, federal workers, and media to reach a deal. Some proposals in negotiation include temporary stopgap bills, partial funding agreements, or decoupling healthcare subsidies from other budget items. But politically, each side fears being seen as the one who gave in. Midterm election hopes for both parties are at stake. Whichever path they choose could affect public trust, future negotiations, and party reputations. In the meantime, the public can expect services to slowly resume once funding passes. But the damage, financial stress, public confidence, negative media cycles might linger. It's not a switch you flip back quickly. The 2025 government shutdown is not merely a political standoff. It's a human crisis. Behind every number is a face like Sarah's, a mother, a teacher, a taxpayer, now left waiting. As the streets go dark in offices, families wrestle with questions: who pays, when, and how soon? If you're among those affected, or know someone who is, I invite you to share your story with us at starletnewsigmail.com. We will continue to follow this story closely, bring updates, and tell you who's winning and who's suffering in this national standoff. You've been watching Starlit News Reports. I'm Harris Khan. Good night, and stay informed.